Item number 4, consider and discuss Community Budget Committee recommendation. Superintendent Collins.
Thank you, President Lambert. Over the course of the last few months, we have been talking as a board and as administrators in the school district about how to best go about making the budget cuts that were necessary for next year's budget and for this year's budget as well, to make sure that we're being financially responsible and good stewards of the taxpayer dollars. And what we decided as a board to do was to create a charter to pull together a community budget committee. And y'all did that back in December, whenever y'all formally approved the charter. And so administration pulled together a total of about 64 people who met over January and February to come up with options for y'all to discuss and consider and give administration marching orders on as we start to prepare the budget for next year that you will adopt in August. So that work was very meaningful, and you're going to hear from our representatives from the budget committee that will come up and present the presentation and everything that they came to. But first, I would like for, if you spent 5 nights with us, 5 long nights on the budget committee, there are many people here who did that, including staff. If you were a part of the budget committee meetings, will you please stand up and be recognized? Thank you all so much. Thank you very, very much. It was an amazing group of people that came together and learned a ton about school finance and about our situation. And so this is our March 10th meeting for the timeline, and we are going to talk about their recommendations. And then again, through March through August, we will be implementing those based on y'all's recommendations to me. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Mr. Simon Ortiz and Mr. Matt Hughes, who will represent the budget committee in presenting.
Okay, we're going to start real briefly. We're going to try to put together a quick dissertation of what the process was. So bear with me while I try this. There we go. The UCISD Budget Committee timeline, as you can see, it started in November, selection process. We started meeting in January, March, in March and in August 2025. That's when the implementation of some of these recommendations will happen. December 24th, a new budget committee will be again put together for the next March 2025, has some additional recommendations. That is basically the timeline. The next one.
There we go.
Well, it's not the one I ordered. The first, the administration, the UCISD administration came up with some items that they could start working on before we gave our recommendations. And basically, that is but if we could go first, before we get into the recommendations, let's go into the makeup of the committee. Makeup of the committee is 64 total participants. It was 5 students, 8 parents, 7 principals, 10 teachers, 8 staff members, 12 department leaders, and 14 community leaders. It was a very diverse group. I was very impressed with the people that were selected. There was plenty of parents. There was people from different areas of the city. There was different school board or school district employees from different areas. So it was a very diverse group. Now, what the administration did is they gave us a set of cost-cutting measures that we could review and try to come up with a hierarchy of what was the most that we wanted to do and what was the least. And to do that, we had 3 questions per category or per group. Will it make it meaningful? And we'd have to vote 1 or 5. No would be 1. 5 is yes. The second is, will it minimize negative impact in teaching and learning? And the third, will it help ensure the long-term goals and visibility of ECISD? Now, there were some suggestions that we wanted to vote negative 500, but that was not the methodology that was put together. So you'll see some of these that we really would not want, but they're way at the bottom of the list. So that being said, I'm going to turn over the mic to Mr. Matthews, and he will go over some of those items.
So we're going to skip back a couple slides here and kind of go over the district administration's reduction plan through changes in schedule. There look to be a savings of 1.4 million. So realignment of staff and buildings could save an additional $250,000 there, and then assess departments' efficiency opportunities. So productivity, again, shifting staff from one campus to another, et cetera. So already they're at, looks like 2.15 million in hopes to get to a $3 million cut. Is that correct? So as Simon was mentioning, we had the 3 tiers based off of the voting of the 64 individuals. Tier 1 were the ones, obviously, that the majority of the 64 individuals voted on. At the top of that list, as the other lady had mentioned, was the selling of Slate Creek. In a small committee that we had, we asked that the district get a fair market value on that property to ensure that the amount was correct. Currently, it's estimated at a $1 million revenue point. However, an appropriate appraisal is probably pertinent on that issue. Additionally, reducing the pay for uncertified teachers, that would save an additional $221,000, but also with the intent, the secondary intent of encouraging teachers to become certified so those teachers could better teach our students. Looking at stipends, it says reduce stipends according to standards, but I think it was just more of like reworking and consolidating some of the stipends and ensuring that the stipends were correct. Eliminating student accident insurance was the second tier. You could see that there's a pretty, line of demarcation there from 500 points to 4 and then down to 3. 30,000, probably not the highest impact, but I think there's some other opportunities there, perhaps where for parents in the school district that would want that supplemental insurance, they could turn around and purchase it for, $30 a year or something like that. And then we get to your tier 3, which, as Simon mentioned, maybe some more significant opportunities here as far as savings, but not really the ones that we really liked the most. Reducing staff medical insurance contribution, we understand, would be a potential hardship on some of our teachers and staff members. So there was some additional discussion about tiering that for some of your higher end paying jobs. Perhaps they would have some sort of cut, but maybe some of the not so high end paying jobs, maybe no cuts at all. Reducing pre-K to half day, again, could save you some significant money there at $360,000, but we also felt that that might potentially reduce the readiness of kids coming into first grade. So again, not really at the top of our list. And then probably the least favorable of all, in at least the subcommittee, was the closing of the Batesville School, just because of the tax revenue that it brings. And there were some other program opportunities, one called Moonshot that we learned about, that would actually bring revenue back to the district and become a magnet school, if I'm saying all that correctly. So if you look at the 24-25 local budget current, 41.8 million, school district looks like it's projecting a $39 million for next year. So that's already your $2 million loss, more or less. Additional projected deficits, trying to get to 3.3. And with the 2.1 that they already have, we're looking for 1.24. And I think if you did the math, even if you didn't go to our tier 3, you could probably get there without having to make tremendous impact. And then back to Simon.
Yes. In looking at the 7 or 9 categories that they gave us, we also thought outside the box. So tried to think outside the box and came up with some additional committee recommendations. Reconsider technology plan 1-to-1 to iPads. That was already on there, but we did not, that was one of the ones that would really affect directly the level of education to our students. So there should be a reconsider the one-on-one to some type of plan where the high school gets one-on-one and the kids below might get something other than one-on-one on their iPads and Chromebooks. Second is recommend tiered contribution for health insurance contribution reductions. Let's leave our lower scaled employees alone and do a tiered ones for the high paying jobs. The third is recommend the district adopt a plan to locally certify quality teachers. That would be very interesting because that certification is going to be only good for Uvalde. So we are going to recruit and certify and pay them certified teacher pay, but they can't use that certification at LaPrire, Crystal City, but they will be able to teach as certified teachers here. It will help in the recruiting of teachers by having a local program to certify locally. Third is place great, of course, the big one, one of the big ones, place greater emphasis on attendance and system. That is going to be very hard. It is a mindset that we have to work on, a culture, school, the whole district wide, to be able to get these kids to come and stay in school. Third is sell unused properties. As accounts do not like non-performing assets. And when Legacy gets opens up, we're going to have Flores, Benson, and Garden available. And we do not want non-performing assets in our books. It's going to be up to the administration and the board to come up with a good plan to use these, put them to work somehow, or either sell them, lease them, something. The next one is focus on capturing accurate data on PEIMS. What we need is to be able to do a total assessment of our policies and procedures on how we keep attendance. WADA is weighted average daily attendance. And some in the administration think that there's an opportunity to recapture $2.7 million worth of revenue that we're losing out because we need to work on improving the policies and procedures, the weights and the balances to make sure that we're capturing every single penny that the school district deserves. Of course, be judicious in spending. Of course, we already talked about student insurance. And of course, the moonshot. Well, let's go ahead and use Batesville as a magnet school in the moonshot program to get some students from LaPrire, Crystal City, Dilley, to come to our magnet school. Not only students from Uvalde, but other school districts. So those are the additional committee recommendations. So in summary, real quickly, the reason we're doing this is because we have a $3.4 million deficit. So to address this deficit, UCISD administration and the budget committee looked at 3 major categories, 2 of which were cost savings or cost cutting, and 1 which was revenue opportunities. The cost savings were divided into two categories, which address the immediate need to balance the budget. The first category is the district administration reduction plan, consists of mostly operational adjustments, which the district is already performing or trying to perform. The second category is the community budget committee recommendation, which consists of items that UCISD identified and asked for community member input. And of course, the third one is community recommendations, which are, I call them opportunity recommendations, mostly revenue producing recommendations. So the first two, cost cutting, will provide the district with some time to focus and work on the third one. Anybody have any questions? We will answer them.
Yeah, I think it's, let's see. As far as, do we know like what percentage of parents actually purchase the school insurance? Is it,
We just pay for it at this point.
and we don't need, I would just like to know how many, because I, if I'm not mistaken, because it's happened to me, that school insurance is mainly for those that do not have insurance. Because I had a child with an injury, and because I had my own insurance, they did not cover any part of her injury that happened on campus. So I'd like to know, I mean, it's not a whole lot of money, but it's still some positive for our budget to put back into our budget. I just like to know like how many families actually have, used it.
So 2 years ago, we had 6 families use it, and then last year was 11.
So
Families.
it's more like, works more like supplement.
It's a
So it is a supplement.
So, yeah.
It's a
But if
supplement.
you have insurance,
we
it
don't have-
doesn't, yeah, it doesn't.
We have insurance. So like my daughter, she got hurt in sports. So my insurance covers
Right.
primarily, and then supplement the whatever it doesn't cover, then this insurance covers it.
Though we've been
They
static.
can choose what they want to cover.
Well,
Right.
yeah, but
Yeah.
that's
At this point, I think the parents do not pay anything. It's just 30,000 that the school district pays.
Parents do not pay anything right now.
Well, I was just wondering how many times we've used it. Or
17 times in the last 2 years.
Mr. Ortiz, I
Yes.
wanted to just comment as well on the additional committee recommendations where it says reconsider technology plan 101. So I know the discussion was from 7th grade all the way through high school was going to be the one-on-one iPads, and everybody else below was going to be a classroom set.
Right.
So that was a discussion that was had in the
Right.
committee.
And one of our members in our table is the gentleman that does your technology, and he suggested that for each school you have a set of testing extras that when that whole classroom has to test, you'll have enough so that everybody will have one to use during the test. That was the only additional recommendation.
We would run a committee of students and teachers to sort of figure out what do they feel like they want, need, and such before we made any changes. We would need to talk to the people who are actually implementing. And so we would pull some focus groups together to find out what their recommendations were.
So in looking at all of it, the way it was, and the committee, speaking for the committee, not myself, it seemed like the number one is let's sell Slate, come up with a incentive recruitment program, and use that money to do the study to make sure that we're getting all our money from PEEMS. That was the big, because if administration is right and we're losing out on 2.7 million, that's more than half of the battle won.
Can you speak about Tier 3, the reduced staff medical insurance contribution?
Again, it's there because we couldn't take it off. We had to vote one or none, whatever. So the only thing that if it is to happen, which we don't think, because if you look at Tier 1, we're saying let's do Tier 1. Tier 1 is more than the 1.24 million that we need to make up for the difference of the 3.3 million. So we don't even have to touch tier 2 or tier 3 if we're successful in tier 1. But as far as the medical insurance, we're saying, okay, let's not do that, but maybe the top tier can afford to have a little bit more taken out of their pay. The bus drivers, the maintenance workers, I mean, it's not affordable for them to be able to do that. So let's do it on a sliding scale. That's the only recommendation. Other recommendation, tier 3 is there because we had to. If we could, we would just take it out. That's the 64.
Everything you see, they minimum vote.
Right. They had to have a minimum vote. And you'll notice.
The you see odds of the number that
Right.
Yeah.
Let me.
something.
Right. They had to vote.
The reduced pay for uncertified teachers, what is that?
Right now, the state mandates something like 33,000, I believe, and we're paying them 42,000. And so it's way above the state mandated pay for uncertified teachers. But it's a two-edged sword. What should happen is let's develop and have that local certification program so that we can get them certified. And quite a few of them will probably meet those standards right now to be able to then get back on as a first-time teacher and get back to their 52,000 per year.
So then we'll still end up losing more money,
But
right? It won't.
and what
Try to get at is if we clean up our house and we get these revenues back up, which really should be the focus, you won't have to year over year continue to cut. This is just to get you back where you're at a level of ground. And then ideally, I mean, what we talked about in the subcommittee was you get your revenues right, you get your PEMS right, you create this magnet school and do everything right, get your revenue back up. Even if you had to make the very difficult choice of reducing medical insurance contributions, maybe next year you give it right back. Maybe next year some of these things like reducing pay, stipends, etc., all comes back.
some of those stipends, for example, they're getting days and monies. Those need to be looked at.
Plus extra days.
Days, exactly.
So we would work there. Can you tell me your ideas for reducing?
That's double pay.
Right.
So, and make sure that what we're paying them is just for what is being paid in the area and in the state.
So
Go back to tier 3, the reduced staff medical insurance. You said the sliding scale, what would that impact if it was a
It's-
sliding scale?
It is what the school district and the board decide on. We just recommend that there be a sliding scale.
So it wouldn't be 600,000,
No,
the sliding scale, right?
no.
Right. This
And again, these recommendations, if you do number 1 and number 2 on tier 1, you met the 1.2 that you want from the budget committee. Because number 1, and a lot of us in the committee think that Slate Creek is worth more than just 1 million, or the amount that would be the school district would get back on the equity, because we think that it's at least $500,000 more than that.
So that's
I think we
equity. Is that what that is? Equity? That's
That's equity, yes. There has to be a good commercial valuation of that property to find out exactly what the value is. Right now, UCAT has it for $2 million, I believe. And
And what about sell of that property? Is it an auction, or how do you sell a property for a?
I think some people have already approached the administration on that, on buying it.
Yeah.
Of course,
He's would handle it.
the school district would have to follow the rules and regulations the state would have for them to be able to sell it, whether it be at open bid or it be an auction. But still, I think she's already had people approach her to see if the school district is interested in selling that property.
That is the first.
Right.
Right. We would have to do an evaluation and get fair market value for it. Anything that we sell as a school district, we're obligated by law to make sure that we get fair market value for it.
people is it going to impact? The stipends and the uncertified teachers?
That is,
It depends on how many, it depends, it will depend on what we have next year. And
Is that incoming uncertified, or is that gonna hurt our uncertified current teachers?
so next month, we're going to bring to y'all a District of Innovation update with some criteria for locally certifying teachers. So those teachers who meet the criteria to be locally certified by UCISD, it would not impact them. It would impact people that are probably just coming into the district or haven't met the standards yet. And it would drop that group to the state rate, the minimum state rate. Some districts pay them as subs. Some districts pay them the minimum state rate. We still, at 42,500, we still pay them more than most districts surrounding us do. So that's one spot where we could save some money.
If it's stuff, I mean,
It's very cheap.
because the other stuff, it's hard, 48 and dropping them to 33.
Y'all talked about this gathering people out district. But most of us that are professionals have a customized things. And so our biggest thing are multiple studios are we need posted so that people know there's something being sometimes there's both lots to be what happens is programs with health certain individuals. So we have talked about making time well, how do you volunteer this? Well, I was not very good. That's how I was like, that's our spirit. My degree, I staff college focused social worker. I'm not life. I have to be life. So we had a couple of the things together to our staff so that our students in turn are getting quality education. So some of the several testimonies that them from a student and in one of the results that talked about one of the best teachers we've ever had is not certified. So because a teacher is not certified does not mean she's not exact.
But we can get them locally.
So we can.
but we can get a locally certified.
With the state.
No, that would be one of the first ones to book.
Right.
Right.
Right. Yeah. No, I don't think, well, I know I wouldn't say that, but I mean, I think it's important that we do have certified teachers. There are other districts that if you're not certified, they're not even going to look at you. They're not going to look at you. You need to be certified. It's just
That's
everywhere else,
And the general consensus of the committee was that with this local certification, it might slow down this turnover that we're having. It will have an effect on the turnover.
I'm sorry, President Gonzalez, what do you
Thank you. What the community has done in essence is give before it says how the community feels about certain areas of cut. And then the next step for you as a board was to take this information and then chart the administration with coming up with detailed planning for y'all to consider, whether it be the tier or sliding scale, the medical, the reworking on the couple stipends, the evaluation or the evaluation of Slate Creek. And so you as a board decide what to do that you want to tackle, then chart administration give you those details. Obviously, they don't have those details that we're working on. But that would be the next step is, you get a sense of where the community's at, and then now it's up to the board, direct administration to provide you the details that you're asking for, and then proceed with whichever option is best. Get your budget stacking balance and that whole look at the revenue side. So this. Yep.
Well, we appreciate the committee so much because that gives us a lot of information, a lot of insight, a lot of ideas, a lot of avenues that we can talk about and we can look at. We're in other times it's been like the board does what they want, and it's never really been like that. But just thank you guys, all of you who have put in your opinion, your thoughts, your efforts, your ideas. I mean, this is great stuff, really great stuff.
Yeah, it was real nice to meet a lot of the community members and get to know them and kind of see what the temperament is around town and what people value. It was real nice to see that where we normally can't have this back and forth discussion.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. You know, if you're thinking, the values is one thing, right? But then direction, something totally different. And so, yeah, appreciate you guys, everybody that was there. Some really good information. And now there's.
So the district administration reduction plan, schedule, Benson campus moving, departments for efficiency opportunities, was that discussed in the committee or that wasn't discussed at all? No.
So since it's funny to their financial aspect, how much money to take instead of the next, would say projected savings. It was like us that way. It wasn't about like us. But
Was there a reason why that wasn't considered in the vote?
Because those are things in our control that we already know we need to do. That's,
operations.
yeah.
When I saw the operational aspect that could be controlled and best studied by the administration rather than and some were already exactly. Yeah, you do a lot of ideas and kind of example the air conditioning,
They're all add up to something, right? They turn the AC down, they'll leave it or turn it off or something. And then they talked about uniforms, more accountability on uniforms instead of just purchasing all the time. Talked a lot about things like that.
We should all be their non-performing instances.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot that we can do, a lot that was discussed. More budget committee members walked in, and I just want to say thank you to all of you for being here tonight and for all the time and effort that you put in to being there for 5 nights and having the discussions and giving us good guidance on what your values are as far as a community team. And we look forward to doing more things with y'all as we go. We will start board workshops on budget in the next month or 2. We'll start the board workshop budget workshops. I'm so sorry. So there will be more of these, and probably not on a board meeting night where we can all sit down and discuss it and answer questions. And I'll have staff here to answer questions and have some numbers for y'all.
I appreciate everybody that also, to echo everything about the time you spent to help us come up with a budget that works for our community also, instead of just 7 people. And the budget process is a tough, long, hard thing to do. Then when you're dealing with a deficit, I mean, that makes it even worse. So I'm thankful for y'all for taking the time to do what you've done to help us, and which helps our whole community. And I appreciate that.
There's one other point. Sir, he said something to me one day. He said, the minimal impact, if any, to the child and to staff, yeah, of course, employees, right? And that just keeps coming back. And that to me is the most important thing that Mr. King. So thank you for that. Entertain a motion for adjournment.
Mr. Board President, I make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by trustee Pettis, seconded by trustee Suarez. All in favor? Motion passes unanimously. We are adjourned.
2 minutes.
For